If you've seen this graph in our free ebook that shows the impact of delayed investment for 3 doctors, then you might be in a sudden rush to get started in investing. And that's good, because investing early is how we manage to free ourselves up to work less time as doctors and spend more of our time helping our colleagues to make better financial decisions with Medic's money. But instead of rushing into investing, here's 5 things that you should do before investing to set you up for investing success. Number 1, start an emergency fund. An emergency fund is just a separate pot of money with between 3 and maybe 9 months of your living expenses, depending on your circumstances, saved up in a separate pot labeled your emergency fund. At a simple level, the emergency fund is there to stop you having to use expensive credit cards when you get an unexpected expense, like your car blows up and needs an expensive repair. The last thing that you want to do then is put that on a credit card, and your emergency fund is just a spare pot that helps with that. But if you're thinking about investing, the emergency fund has a much more important role in my view, and that is if you have all of your money invested in your investments and no spare pot of cash to fall back on when emergencies happen, the first time an emergency does happen, you're going to be faced with the same problem, either putting that expense on a credit card, which is a disaster, or dipping into your investments and potentially selling down some investments to release that cash, and it might not be a good time to sell those investments. So get an emergency fund before you start investing. Then the first time that you have an emergency, which will almost certainly coincide with a stock market downturn, you don't have to sell those assets in your stock portfolio at a loss. You can just use that spare emergency fund to pay for the expenses and then build the emergency fund back up slowly. The emergency fund insulates your stock portfolio from emergencies and protects you from having to sell it down when you don't want to do that. The second thing before investing is, in my opinion, pay off high interest rate debt. If you've got a credit card with an interest rate of 19% and you're going to start investing in the stock market, which historically has yielded returns after inflation and after costs of around 6%, it makes no sense to be diverting money to an investment, the stock market, that's going to get you 6%, when paying down that interest rate on the credit card of 19% is effectively a 19% investment return. A guaranteed 19% investment return is not going to happen in the real world in any other situation than paying down a high interest 19% debt. So pay off those high interest rate debts first before you think about investing. Number 3, create a budget. Budgeting is perhaps the most boring word in personal finance, but it's also really, really important. If you don't know where your money goes and what you're spending your money on, the likelihood is you're wasting some money. If you're wasting that money on things which you don't need, that is money that could be channeled into your investment portfolio. Instead of wasting money on liabilities that you don't need, you could be channeling that money into an asset, your investments, which you do need. So think about getting a budget and use the technique of pay yourself first to filter off a set amount every month of your paycheck automatically into your investment portfolio. But before you do that, you need to get a budget. Number 4, think about protection. If you get sick and you can't work, how would you pay your bills? The first step there would be finding out what sick pay you're entitled to and working out whether that's enough long term. And if you don't think that is enough long term, then you need to think about getting some protection. And this protection can break down into 3 main categories. You can get income protection insurance, which is designed to replace your income if you can't work. You can get critical illness insurance, which pays out usually a lump sum when you get one of a predefined list of critical illnesses. And you can get life insurance, which is designed to insure you against premature death. If you cannot afford to pay your expenses, if you couldn't work, then you absolutely need to consider protection. And you probably need to consider that before you start investing. Because if you build your investing castle on sand, one day it will fall down. To stop it from falling down, build it on firm foundations. And those firm foundations are a solid income protection, life insurance strategy. So think about that. The final thing to do before investing is to take your time to learn about investing. Learn to develop your investment philosophy. Learn about strategies. Try to avoid all the noise and the hype and cons, unfortunately, and the scams, which unfortunately can be affecting investors. And instead, take your time, learn about the basics. And I've put some links in the show notes to help you find some of those resources. Hope you found this useful. If you want more of these videos, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button and you won't miss any more videos. Thanks so much for your time. Take care.